Imagine, for just a moment, that you are hovering at the edge of nothingness. A faint whisper of thought stirs within you, a spark in the vast, silent dark. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the world begins to take shape. A soft hum of sensation, a fleeting warmth, the distant murmur of a reality waiting to be claimed. You are waking up. But what does it mean to awaken when the line between dream and truth feels as thin as a breath? In these first fragile moments, as sleep recedes like a tide pulling back from the shore, there is a profound strangeness to being. You are not yet fully here, yet not entirely gone. It's as if you are a traveler stepping onto an unfamiliar shore, unsure if the land beneath your feet is solid or merely a mirage painted by your own longing for certainty. The mind flickers, grasping at fragments of what was, a dream perhaps, or a memory of oblivion. And what is this elusive now that demands your attention? But can you trust this awakening? Is it a return to something real, or just another layer of illusion, a deeper dream from which you have yet to emerge? Consider the paradox woven into this very moment. To be awake is to emerge from nothingness, to step into a world that you must immediately make sense of, even as doubt lingers like a shadow at the edge of sight. You open your eyes, and the room takes form, familiar shapes, muted colors, the quiet rhythm of your breath. Yet, in these first seconds, there is a question that hums beneath it all. Are you truly awake? Or are you still caught in the echo of a dream too vivid to release you? Philosophers have long pondered this riddle. Descartes, in his quiet solitude, wrestled with the specter of deception, wondering if an unseen trickster might be weaving a false reality around him. If even the sharpest mind can doubt its own wakefulness, what hope do we have of knowing for certain? Think of waking as a kind of rebirth, a daily ritual of becoming. Each morning, we are tasked with reconstructing the world from the raw material of sensation and memory. The mind, still tender from its nocturnal wandering, must stitch together a narrative. Here is the bed, there is the window, this is who I am. But how often do we pause to question this act of creation? We assume that to be awake is to know, to see clearly. Yet in these early moments, clarity is a distant promise. It's as if we are sculptors working with clay that refuses to hold its shape, forever reshaping a reality that slips through our fingers. Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you truly lingered in that liminal space between sleep and waking, allowing yourself to feel the weight of that first awareness? Did you sense the fragility of it all, the way the world seemed to hover, waiting for your permission to exist? Or did you rush forward, eager to claim the day without considering what it means to step from nothingness into being? Let us linger here a little longer, in this quiet stirring of consciousness. Imagine the mind as a lake at dawn, its surface still and unbroken, reflecting a world not yet disturbed by the winds of thought. In this stillness, there is a kind of purity, a moment before judgment, before interpretation, before the weight of the day settles upon you. Yet even here, the paradox persists. To be awake is to begin questioning, to wonder if this lake, this reflection, is a true mirror of reality, or merely a canvas for your own illusions. The ancient Greeks spoke of Hypnos, the god of sleep, and his twin Thanatos, the shadow of death, as if to remind us that waking is always a dance with the unknown, a step away from the abyss we cannot fully comprehend. And so, as you sit with this thought, consider the mystery of your own awakening. Each morning, you cross an invisible threshold, leaving behind the uncharted realms of sleep for a world that demands your presence. Yet, in doing so, you carry with you the echo of that other place, a whisper of dreams, a trace of the void. What if being awake is not the end of the journey, but merely the beginning of a deeper inquiry? What if, in this first glimmer of consciousness, you are already touching the edge of a truth too vast to name? A truth that asks not just who you are, but whether you are at all? Let this question linger as the world sharpens around you, as the light grows brighter and the hum of life begins to call. For in this moment of awakening, there is a quiet power, a chance to see not just the world, but the act of seeing itself. And perhaps, in that seeing, you might glimpse something eternal, something that sleeps and wakes within you, forever caught between the dream and the dawn. Imagine for a moment that you stand at the helm of a ship, the vast ocean stretching endlessly before you, the wheel steady in your hands. You chart the course, confident in your command, believing every turn and decision is yours to make. But what if the currents beneath, unseen and ancient, have already decided your path? What if the wind, whispering secrets you cannot hear, guides you more surely than your own will? As we rise into the waking hours of our day, we wrap ourselves in the comforting illusion of control, believing we are the architects of our thoughts, our actions, our very reality. Yet beneath this fragile certainty, a quieter question stirs. How much of this life we call our own is truly within our grasp? Consider the rhythm of your morning, the way your feet find the floor, the way your hands move through familiar tasks, pouring water, reaching for a door, speaking words you've spoken 1,000 times before. These are the motions of a life you've built, a life you believe you steer. But pause and look closer. How often do you find yourself acting not out of choice, but out of habit, as though some unseen script has been written into the very marrow of your being? The body moves, the mind follows, and somewhere deep within, a whisper asks, are you deciding? Or are you merely playing a part in a play you did not write? This paradox of control weaves itself through the fabric of our waking state, subtle and insidious. We celebrate our autonomy, crafting plans and chasing desires, yet we are tethered to forces far beyond our understanding. Biology hums beneath our skin, a silent conductor orchestrating hunger, fatigue, the quickening of a heartbeat at the mere thought of danger. Our past, a shadow we cannot outrun, shapes the lens through which we see the world, nudging us toward paths we swear we've chosen freely. And what of the unseen, those currents of culture, of expectation, of invisible threads woven by the hands of others? Are we masters of our reality, or are we merely dancers in a choreography we cannot see? Let us drift back through time to the ancient Greeks, who pondered this very question beneath the olive trees of Athens. They spoke of fate, of the Moirai, 3 sisters who spun, measured, and cut the thread of every human life. Even the gods, mighty as they were, bowed to the will of these unseen weavers. For the Greeks, control was an illusion, a comforting story told to ease the dread of a universe too vast to comprehend. Yet, even as they surrendered to fate, they lived with purpose, as though every choice mattered. Is this not the same dance we perform today, striving to govern our lives while sensing, in the quiet corners of our minds, that something greater moves us? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of your own decisions, the ones you made today, yesterday, a year ago. Did they feel like yours in the moment? Or do you now see the faint fingerprints of something else? Habit, fear, a longing you cannot name? What if being awake, truly awake, means not seizing control, but recognizing how little of it we ever had? What if the clarity we seek lies not in mastering our reality, but in learning to flow with currents we cannot resist? And so, we walk through our days, hands on the wheel, eyes on the horizon, convinced we are the captains of our fate. Yet, beneath the surface, the ocean churns with mysteries we cannot fathom. Perhaps this is the deepest paradox of our waking state, that control is both our greatest aspiration and our most persistent illusion. We are neither wholly free nor wholly bound, but caught in a delicate tension, a dreamlike reality where every step feels like ours, even as we wonder if we are merely sleepwalking through a world that has already decided our course. Let this thought linger as you move through your own day, a quiet companion to the choices you believe are yours. For in this space, between certainty and doubt, lies a truth as elusive as the wind itself, a truth that asks not for answers, but for wonder. Imagine for a moment that you stand before a mirror in the soft glow of morning. The world still hushed, as if holding its breath. Your reflection stares back, familiar yet strangely distant. A face you've seen 1,000 times, but never truly known. Who is this person gazing at you through the glass? Is it really you, or merely a shadow of who you once were, shaped by the weight of years and the whispers of memory? There's a quiet unease in this encounter, a subtle mystery that lingers in the air, as if the mirror holds a secret it refuses to share. As you linger there, tracing the lines of your own features, it's hard not to wonder how much of what you see is truly yours. Identity, after all, is a slippery thing, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the chaos within. Are you the child who once dreamed of impossible futures, or the weary traveler who has walked through countless yesterdays? Perhaps you are neither. Perhaps you are a mosaic of moments, pieced together by fleeting joys and quiet sorrows, a puzzle that shifts with every breath. And yet, in this moment of supposed wakefulness, how can you be so sure of who you are when the self you confront feels like a stranger? Think of the ancient philosophers who pondered the nature of the self, like Heraclitus, who said you cannot step into the same river twice, for both you and the river are ever changing. In the same way, the person you see in the mirror today is not the one who stood there yesterday, nor the one who will stand there tomorrow. Each glance reveals a new iteration, a fleeting snapshot of a being in flux. And yet, we cling to the idea of a fixed identity, a solid core that defines us, even as time erodes the edges of who we thought we were. Isn't it peculiar, then, that to be awake means to confront a self that is never quite the same, a reflection that eludes capture like mist in the morning light? Consider, too, how memory plays its part in this illusion. Every scar, every line on your face carries a story. A fall from a bicycle, a sleepless night, a moment of laughter so bright it burned itself into your skin. But memory is a fickle artist, painting over the truth with strokes of longing or regret. What if the self you see is not who you are, but who you wish to be, or who you fear you've become? What if the mirror reflects not a person, but a fiction, a carefully crafted tale you've spun to endure the uncertainty of existence? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the weight of that thought settle over you like a gentle fog, obscuring the sharp edges of certainty. There's a quiet beauty in this uncertainty, though, a mystery that invites rather than repels. To stand before the mirror is to stand at the edge of a vast unknown, to peer into the depths of your own being and find not answers, but questions. Endless, echoing questions. Are you the sum of your choices, or the spaces between them? Are you the dreams you've abandoned, or the ones that still flicker in the corners of your mind? In this fragile moment of morning, as the world slowly stirs beyond the glass, you are awake to a paradox. To see yourself is to see a stranger. To know yourself is to embrace the unknowable. And so, you step away from the mirror, carrying this quiet riddle with you into the day. The reflection fades, but the questions linger, curling like smoke in the back of your mind. Who gazes back at you when no one else is watching? Who are you when the masks fall away? When the stories you've told yourself unravel in the stillness? Perhaps the true awakening is not in finding the answer, but in learning to live with the mystery, to walk through the world with eyes wide open to the enigma of your own existence. Imagine for a moment that you are standing on the edge of a vast, invisible river. Its current moves ceaselessly, pulling everything in its path. Yet you cannot see it, cannot touch it, only feel its relentless tug against your very being. This river is time, the silent force that shapes every breath we take, every thought we dare to think. We awaken each day into its flow, believing we can navigate its waters, chart our course, and anchor ourselves in moments of clarity. But what if this river is a deception, a construct we've woven to tame the chaos of existence? What if the very act of waking binds us to an illusion we can never escape? As the first light of morning spills across the world, we rise to the rhythm of the clock. Its steady ticking becomes the heartbeat of our day, a reminder that we are here now in this fleeting slice of reality. We measure our lives in hours, minutes, seconds, units so precise, so orderly, that they seem to promise control. A meeting at 9, a deadline at noon, a quiet hour stolen at dusk. We cling to these markers as if they are solid ground beneath our feet, as if they can hold back the tide of uncertainty that threatens to sweep us away. But pause for a moment and consider, does time truly belong to us, or are we merely its prisoners, dragged along by a current we neither chose nor understand? Think of the ancient minds who first sought to tame this invisible force. Thousands of years ago, beneath the scorching sun of Mesopotamia, early humans carved the first sundials into stone, tracing the shadow of the sun as it arced across the sky. They divided the day into segments, named the hours, and in doing so, birthed a framework that would bind generations to come. Time became a god to be worshipped, a master to be obeyed. Yet even as they measured it, did they not feel its mockery? Each shadow that lengthened, each day that slipped into night, was a reminder that no dial, no calendar could ever capture the essence of a moment. The more they sought to grasp time, the more it eluded them, just as it eludes us now. Consider the paradox that lies at the heart of this waking clock. We awaken to a world where every tick is a step forward, yet every step takes us closer to an end we cannot see. We fill our days with tasks and plans, as if by doing so we can outrun the river's pull. But in the quiet spaces between, in the stillness of a late afternoon or the hush of midnight, don't you feel it? That gnawing sense that time is not a line, not a path, but a circle, a loop with no beginning and no end, where every moment we claim as ours has already slipped through our fingers before we can even name it. Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you truly held a moment, felt its weight in your hands, without the shadow of the next already creeping in? Perhaps time is not the river, but the mirror. It shows us what we wish to see, an orderly progression, a story with a beginning, middle, and end. We tell ourselves we are moving forward, growing, achieving, because to admit otherwise would be to face the chaos beneath the surface. What if time is not real in the way we imagine it to be? What if it is a fiction, a scaffolding we've built to make sense of a universe that defies comprehension? The physicist might tell us that time is relative, bending and stretching under the weight of gravity and speed. The philosopher might whisper that it is a human invention, a way to impose meaning on the void. But in the quiet of your own mind, what do you feel? Does time hold you, or do you hold it? Or are you both caught in a dance where neither leads, neither follows, only spins endlessly in the dark? There is a story from ancient Greece of a king named Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for all eternity, only to watch it tumble back down each time he neared the summit. His punishment was not the labor, but the repetition, the knowledge that no matter how hard he pushed, time would reset and the cycle would begin anew. Are we not, in our own way, like Sisyphus? Each morning, we wake to push our own boulder, our tasks, our ambitions, our very lives, up the hill of time, believing that this day, this hour, will be different. Yet as the clock ticks on, we feel the weight of repetition, the subtle dread that we are not moving forward at all, but merely tracing the same arc over and over, bound by a force we cannot name. And so, we come to the deepest question of all. If time is a deception, a cage forged by our own need for order, then what does it mean to be awake within it? Are we truly aware, truly present, or are we sleepwalking through a dream of our own making, where the ticking of the clock is merely the lullaby that keeps us under its spell? Perhaps awakening is not about escaping time, but about seeing it for what it is, a fleeting illusion, a whisper of eternity that we can never fully grasp. Take a moment to reflect on this. Sit with the rhythm of your own breath, the quiet pulse of your own existence, and ask yourself, in this very moment, are you free from time's grip, or are you merely its shadow, stretching endlessly across the face of forever? As the day unfolds, we carry this question with us, unspoken but ever present. We watch the hands of the clock move, hear the seconds slip away, and yet we cannot help but wonder if there is a deeper rhythm, a hidden current beneath the surface of our measured lives. Perhaps in the end, to be awake is not to conquer time, but to surrender to its mystery, to let go of the need to hold it, to own it, and instead simply drift within its flow as a leaf drifts upon the river, carried not by will, but by wonder. Imagine for a moment that every choice you make is a key, turning in a lock you cannot see. Each decision, no matter how small, seems to open a door to freedom. Yet as you step through, you feel the weight of invisible chains tightening around you. What does it mean to be awake, to be aware, if the very act of choosing can feel like both a liberation and a trap? Let us wander into this quiet paradox, where the burden of choice reveals itself as a riddle woven into the fabric of our existence. In the gentle light of awareness, we often believe that to be awake is to be free. We rise each day, faced with 1,000 tiny crossroads, whether to speak or remain silent, to act or hesitate, to turn left or right on the path of our lives. Each choice feels like an assertion of our will, a declaration that we are the authors of our own story. But pause for a moment and consider the unseen currents beneath these decisions. How often do we choose not out of true freedom, but from the echoes of habit, the whispers of fear, or the expectations we've inherited from a world we did not create? Are we truly awake to our own agency, or are we merely following a script, written by forces we cannot name? Let us drift back through the corridors of history to a time when the ancient Greeks pondered the nature of fate. They spoke of the Moirai, the three fates who spun, measured, and cut the thread of every human life. Even the mightiest of heroes, awake to their own strength, could not escape the destiny laid out for them. Achilles, for all his valor, could not choose to avoid the arrow that would pierce his heel. Was his wakefulness, his awareness of his own power, merely an illusion, a cruel trick played by the gods who held the true reins of his life? And if so, are we any different? Do we, in our modern clarity, truly choose our paths? Or are we bound by threads as ancient and unyielding as those spun by the fates? Picture now a bird in flight soaring above a vast and endless forest. From its lofty height, the bird believes it has the freedom to go anywhere, to chart any course. Yet, unseen by its sharp eyes, the winds dictate its direction, pushing it, gently but firmly, toward a destination it did not intend. So too, in our wakefulness, we may feel the exhilaration of choice, the rush of shaping our reality with every decision. But what if the winds of circumstance, of biology, of history, are guiding us just as surely as they guide the bird? What if every choice we make, no matter how deliberate, is but a step along a path we did not lay? Take a moment to reflect on this. Are there choices in your own life that felt free in the moment, only to reveal later that they were shaped by forces beyond your sight? This burden of choice, this paradox of freedom, grows heavier the more we ponder it. To be awake is to be aware of our power to decide, yet that very awareness can become a cage. With every choice, we glimpse the infinite possibilities we did not take, the roads not traveled, the lives we might have lived. And in that glimpse, we feel the weight of consequence, the quiet fear that every decision might lead us not to liberation, but to a deeper entanglement. Could it be that true freedom lies not in choosing at all, but in surrendering to the flow of existence, in accepting that our wakefulness does not grant us control, but merely the illusion of it? Yet even this surrender is a choice, is it not? To let go, to release the need to decide, is itself a decision, one that carries its own unseen consequences. We are caught then in an endless loop, a quiet dance between asserting our will and yielding to the unknown. Perhaps this is the true essence of being awake, not the clarity of freedom, nor the certainty of control, but the willingness to live within this paradox, to embrace the mystery of choice without ever fully understanding its weight. As we linger in this thought, let the question settle over you like a soft mist. Are you awake to the choices you make, or to the forces that shape them? Do you feel the liberation of deciding, or the quiet trap of consequence? There are no answers here, only the gentle invitation to wonder, to let your mind drift through the enigma of freedom and illusion, as if carried on a current you cannot see, but can only feel. Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the weight of your own choices, past and present, rest lightly upon you, and ask yourself, in this moment of awareness, are you truly free, or are you bound by a mystery far greater than yourself? Imagine for a moment that the world you see, hear, and touch is nothing more than a delicate painting, brushed onto the canvas of your mind by senses you've never questioned. What if the vibrant colors of a sunrise, the sharp tang of morning, air, the rough texture of a stone beneath your fingers? What if all of these are not the world itself, but merely a story your body tells you? As you sit with this thought, let it linger like a whisper in the quiet corners of your awareness, inviting you to wonder, when you believe you are truly awake, are you seeing reality? Or are you caught in a mirage woven from fragments of light and sound? Consider the journey of your senses, those silent messengers that bridge the vast unknown of the external world to the intimate theater of your consciousness. From the moment you open your eyes, they flood you with information. The golden glow of dawn spilling through a window, the distant hum of life stirring beyond your walls, the subtle warmth of a blanket against your skin. You trust these impressions without hesitation, as though they are unshakable truths. But pause and ask yourself, how often have your senses deceived you? Recall a time when a shadow in the corner of your vision became a lurking figure, only to dissolve into nothingness upon closer inspection. Or the way a familiar voice on the wind can trick you into turning, certain someone called your name, only to find empty air. These are not mere errors, but quiet reminders that what you perceive as reality is often a construct, a fragile interpretation of signals your mind struggles to decipher. Let's drift deeper into this enigma by considering the ancient thinkers who wrestled with the same unease. Thousands of years ago, in the flickering light of oil lamps, the philosopher Plato spoke of a cave where prisoners, chained from birth, mistook shadows on a wall for the fullness of existence. To them, those fleeting shapes were the world, until one was freed and dragged into the blinding sunlight of truth, where the real forms of things overwhelmed their unready eyes. Plato's allegory is not just a story of ignorance, but a haunting mirror to our own reliance on sensory perception. Are we too prisoners of a cave, mistaking the vivid illusions of our senses for the deeper reality that lies beyond our grasp? Take a moment to reflect on this. What might lie outside the cave of your own perception, unseen and unheard, yet more real than anything your senses have ever shown you? This paradox of sensory trust grows even more tangled when we consider the science of our own design. Your eyes, for instance, do not see the world as it is. They capture only a narrow sliver of light, a mere fraction of the spectrum that exists. Beyond the visible, there are waves of infrared and ultraviolet, invisible to you, yet teeming with information. Your ears, too, are limited, deaf to the ultrasonic cries of bats, or the deep rumbles of the earth that whales can sense across oceans. Even touch, that most grounding of sensations, can be fooled. A phantom limb felt by someone who has lost an arm, a shiver on your skin when no one is there. If our senses are such imperfect tools, built with blind spots and biases, how can we claim to be awake to the world at all? Are we not, in some profound way, half asleep, navigating a reality that is only partly revealed to us, filling in the gaps with assumptions and illusions? Picture now a desert traveler, parched and weary, who sees an oasis shimmering on the horizon. With every step, hope surges. They can almost taste the cool water, feel the shade of palm trees. But as they draw closer, the vision vanishes, dissolving into the heat haze of a mirage. This is not just a trick of light, but a creation of the mind, a desperate projection of need onto an empty landscape. Are we not like this traveler in our daily lives, crafting a world from the raw data of our senses, painting over the unknown with what we wish to see. Perhaps being awake is not about seeing clearly, but about believing in the story our senses tell us, even when we know it might be false. There is a quiet mystery in this thought, a tension between trust and doubt that hums beneath every moment of awareness. As you ponder this, let your mind wander to the smallest details of your day, the creak of a floorboard beneath your feet. Does it speak of a solid reality, or is it just a sound your mind has learned to accept as true? The scent of rain on the wind, does it promise a storm, or is it merely a memory triggered by some forgotten association? Each sensation is a thread in the tapestry of your waking world, yet each could be a deception, a subtle lie spun by a mind eager to make sense of chaos. What would it mean to live with this uncertainty, to hold every sight and sound with a gentle skepticism, neither fully trusting nor fully dismissing the evidence of your senses? Take a moment to reflect on this. Sit with the possibility that the world you inhabit right now is not entirely as it seems. Let your awareness soften, as though you are peering through a veil, sensing the edges of a reality just out of reach. There is no need for answers here, only the quiet space to wonder. If being awake means trusting a world that might deceive, then what does it truly mean to see? Let this question drift with you, like a leaf on a slow-moving stream, carrying you gently onward into the deeper currents of thought. Imagine for a moment a quiet room bathed in the soft light of morning, where the air feels heavy with the echoes of yesterday. As you move through the familiar motions of the day, a shadow lingers just beyond your reach, a whisper of something you can't quite name. It's not a sound nor a sight, but a presence, a weight that clings to your thoughts like dew on grass. This is the weight of memory, an invisible burden that shapes every step, every fleeting glance, even as you believe yourself fully present in this waking hour. But are you truly here, or are you a prisoner to a past that may not even be as real as you think? Consider how memory works, how it weaves itself into the fabric of your awareness. Each recollection is a thread, a fragment of a story you tell yourself to make sense of who you are. The laughter of a childhood friend, the sting of a forgotten promise, the warmth of a moment you swear you can still feel. They all rise unbidden as you walk through your day, coloring the world in hues of nostalgia or regret. Yet, how much of what you remember is true? Science tells us that memory is not a perfect record, but a reconstruction, a painting redrawn each time you call it to mind. Details shift, emotions blur, and what once seemed so vivid becomes a dream you've half invented. If being awake means to stand firmly in reality, then why do we carry a past that might be more illusion than fact? Think of memory as a river, its currents pulling you back even as you strive to move forward. You stand on the shore of the present, believing yourself anchored, yet the waters tug at your feet, dragging you into depths you thought you'd left behind. A scent in the air, a faint trace of rain or bread baking, can pull you decades into the past, to a moment so sharp it feels more real than the ground beneath you now. And yet, that moment is gone, a phantom that exists only in the chambers of your mind. Are you awake to the now? Or are you sleepwalking through a gallery of ghosts, each one whispering a version of yourself you can no longer touch? Let's wander deeper into this paradox. History, too, is a kind of collective memory, a story we've agreed to believe. Consider the ancient Greeks, who spoke of Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, as the mother of the muses. To them, memory was the source of all art, all inspiration, all understanding. Without it, they believed, there could be no poetry, no music, no history to guide the waking mind. Yet even their tales, etched in stone and song, have shifted over millennia, reshaped by each generation that tells them. If our shared past is so malleable, what does that say about the personal past you carry with you now? Are you awake to a truth, or to a myth you've crafted to endure the uncertainty of existence? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of a memory that often visits you, one that seems to define a piece of your being. Is it a comfort or a chain? Does it ground you in who you are, or does it pull you away from who you might become? Let that thought linger, like a breath held just a little too long before it slips away. There is a quiet tragedy in this dance with memory. To be awake, we assume, is to be present, to see the world as it unfolds before us. Yet memory ensures we are never fully here. Our minds are split, half in the now, half in the then, tethered to moments that may never have been as we recall. A conversation with a loved one, a mistake you can't forgive yourself for, a triumph that once lit your soul. They all haunt the edges of your awareness, shaping how you see the person in front of you, how you hear the words spoken today. If memory is a lens, it is a flawed one, distorting as much as it reveals. So, are we ever truly awake, or are we merely dreaming of a past that holds us captive? And yet, we cannot cast memory aside. It is the scaffold of identity, the story that whispers, "This is who I am." Without it, we would be adrift, unmoored in a sea of disconnected moments, unable to learn, to grow, to love. Imagine a life without memory, a perpetual now, where every face is a stranger, every morning a blank slate. Such a state might seem like pure wakefulness, free from the burdens of yesterday, but it would also be a kind of oblivion, a waking, sleep where meaning dissolves. Perhaps then, the paradox is not that memory haunts us, but that we need its ghost to feel alive, to feel awake at all. As you ponder this, let the thought drift like a leaf on that river of memory. Notice how even now, as you listen, fragments of your past stir within you, coloring this very moment with their quiet presence. Are they holding you, or are they holding you back? There is no easy answer, only the gentle weight of the question itself, resting on your mind like a shadow that never quite fades, even in the brightest light of day. Imagine for a moment that every interaction you have, every word you speak, every smile you offer, is not entirely your own. What if, in the presence of others, you become a performer on an unseen stage, wearing a mask of wakefulness crafted, not from your deepest self, but from the expectations that surround you? As you move through crowded rooms or share quiet conversations, there's a subtle shift, a quiet tension between who you are and who you're expected to be. This is the paradox of social consciousness, a delicate dance of authenticity and illusion that weaves itself into the fabric of our waking lives. Consider the last time you laughed at a joke you didn't quite find funny, or nodded in agreement, when your heart held a different truth. In those fleeting moments, were you truly awake to yourself, or were you simply playing a role, shaped by the invisible currents of social expectation? We often think of wakefulness as a state of clarity, a moment when we are fully present and in command of our thoughts. Yet, in the company of others, that clarity can blur. We adjust our tone, soften our edges, or amplify our confidence, not because it's who we are, but because it's who we believe they want us to be. It's as if we step into a mirror, not to see ourselves, but to reflect back an image that aligns with the gaze of those around us. This performance isn't born of deceit, but of a deeper, almost primal need to belong. Long ago, in the vast, untamed landscapes of our ancestral past, survival often depended on the strength of the group. To be seen as different, to stand apart, could mean exile, or worse. So, we learned to adapt, to mold ourselves into shapes that ensured acceptance. Even now, in a world of concrete and glass, that ancient instinct lingers. We wear our social masks not out of malice, but out of a quiet fear of being cast out, of being misunderstood. And yet, in doing so, do we not risk losing touch with the very essence of what it means to be awake? If our waking self is a performance, then who are we when the audience is gone? Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you felt truly unmasked in the presence of another? Was there a conversation, a glance, a shared silence where the weight of expectation lifted? and you could simply be? Or does the mask cling so tightly that even in your most intimate moments, a part of you remains hidden, performing for an unseen observer? This paradox grows even more intricate when we consider how others shape our very sense of reality. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once spoke of the gaze of the other, the idea that we come to know ourselves not through solitary introspection, but through the eyes of those who see us. In their judgment, in their expectations, we find a reflection of who we are, or who we ought to be. But if our wakefulness is so deeply tied to this external gaze, can we ever claim it as our own? Are we awake to our true selves, or are we merely awake to the selves others have dreamed for us? Picture a masquerade ball where every face is hidden behind an ornate disguise. Laughter echoes, voices weave through the air, and yet no one truly knows who stands before them. In this grand charade, connections form, stories are shared, but beneath the masks, a quiet loneliness persists. Is this not a metaphor for our daily interactions? We present a polished version of ourselves, awake to the rules of the game, but in doing so, we distance ourselves from the raw, unfiltered truth of our being. And the irony is this: even as we perform, we long to be seen, truly seen, beyond the mask we've so carefully constructed. There's a haunting beauty in this tension, a reminder that wakefulness is not a static state, but a shifting landscape. In the presence of others, we are both actor and audience, crafting a version of ourselves, while simultaneously yearning to peel back the layers and reveal something more authentic. Perhaps the deepest form of wakefulness lies not in perfect honesty, but in the awareness of this paradox itself, in recognizing the mask we wear and choosing, even for a fleeting moment, to lower it. As you drift through the currents of your own thoughts, consider the faces you've worn today. Were they chosen freely, or did they emerge from the silent expectations of those around you? And if you were to step away from the stage, to stand alone in the quiet of your own mind, would you still know the shape of your own wakefulness? These questions linger like a faint mist, obscuring the line between performance and truth, inviting you to ponder where the mask ends and the self begins. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted wilderness, the air heavy with a silence that seems to hum with hidden questions. You've walked through the morning, through the mundane motions of life, and suddenly you pause. A quiet ache stirs within you, a whisper that asks, "Why am I here at all? What is the purpose of this endless waking, this relentless march through a world that sometimes feels as intangible as a dream?" This is the hunger for meaning, a longing that blooms in the heart of our awake state, often when we least expect it. Midway through the journey of our day, when the initial rush of purpose has faded and the horizon of evening remains distant, we find ourselves caught in a peculiar paradox. To be awake is to be aware, to feel the weight of existence pressing against us, and yet, in that very awareness, we are compelled to search for something greater, a reason, a significance, a thread of meaning that might tie the scattered fragments of our lives into a coherent whole. But what if there is no thread? What if the wilderness before us holds no map, no destination, only the echo of our own footsteps? Consider the ancients, those who gazed at the same sky we do now, their eyes tracing the paths of stars they could not reach. In the flickering light of their fires, they wove stories of gods and heroes, of creation and destruction, not merely to entertain, but to anchor themselves in a world that felt as vast and unknowable as our own. They too awoke each day with this hunger, this need to carve purpose from the raw stone of existence. Did they find it in their myths, in the rituals that bound their tribes together? Or did they, like us, sometimes lie awake beneath the weight of a question too large to answer? Take a moment to reflect on this. How often do we, in our modern lives, craft our own myths through ambition, through love, through the quiet dreams we dare not speak aloud, only to wonder if they hold any more truth than the tales of old? This paradox of purpose weaves itself, into the very fabric of being awake. To open our eyes each morning is to step into a world that demands we act, that we move forward, even as it offers no guarantee of meaning. We build careers, nurture relationships, chase fleeting joys, all in the hope that these pursuits will amount to something enduring. Yet, in the quiet corners of our minds, a shadow lingers, a fear that perhaps it's all a mirage, a beautiful illusion painted on the canvas of a dream we cannot wake from. Is meaning something we discover, like a hidden treasure buried beneath the surface of life? Or is it something we must create, a fragile sculpture shaped from the clay of our choices and losses? Let's wander deeper into this thought. Picture a solitary figure walking along a cliffside at dusk, the ocean below churning with a restless energy that mirrors the turmoil within. Each step they take is deliberate, as if they are searching for a sign, a whisper from the wind that might reveal why they tread this path at all. But the wind remains silent, and the ocean offers no answers, only the ceaseless rhythm of waves breaking against stone. In this moment, the figure embodies our shared struggle. To be awake is to feel the pull of purpose, to yearn for it with every fiber of our being, and yet to stand at the edge of an abyss where no certainty awaits. Do we leap, trusting that meaning will catch us, or do we turn back, content to live with the question unanswered? This hunger, this restless drive, is both our burden and our gift. It pushes us to explore, to create, to connect, even as it keeps us tethered to doubt. Perhaps the paradox lies not in whether meaning exists, but in how we choose to live with the uncertainty. Like the ancients who painted their stories on cave walls, or the poets who poured their longing into words, we awake each day to a blank page, a canvas of possibility. And though we may never know if our strokes form a masterpiece or merely a fleeting sketch, there is something profound in the act of trying, in the quiet courage of seeking purpose even when the wilderness offers no guide. Take a moment to reflect on this. What is it that you seek when you awake each day? Is it a grand design, a cosmic truth, or simply the small tender moments that remind you you're alive? As the silence settles around you, let this question linger, not as a weight, but as a gentle invitation to wander further into the mystery of your own existence. Imagine for a moment that you are utterly alone, standing in the quiet of a vast, empty room. The world outside hums with distant noise, but here, in this stillness, there is only the sound of your own breath, the faint echo of your thoughts. What does it mean to be awake in such a space, where the absence of others sharpens the edges of your own existence? In these fleeting pockets of solitude, we encounter a profound tension, a paradox that tugs at the very fabric of our awareness. To be awake is to be alive with thought, with feeling, with the weight of our own being. Yet, in solitude, that same wakefulness can feel like a heavy cloak of isolation, draping us in questions too vast to answer. Consider how often we seek these moments, even if unknowingly. We carve out spaces in our days, perhaps in the early morning before the world stirs, or in the quiet of a late night when the lights dim, to sit with ourselves. There is a strange comfort in this aloneness, a chance to peel back the layers of noise and distraction that define so much of our waking lives. Yet, as we sink deeper into that silence, a subtle unease often creeps in. The mind, so accustomed to the chatter of others, to the validation of connection, begins to wander into uncharted territory. Who are we when no one is watching? Are we truly awake to ourselves? Or does our sense of reality depend on the gaze of another to affirm it? It's as if solitude becomes a mirror, reflecting not just our face, but the vast, untamed wilderness of our inner world, a landscape that can feel both liberating and terrifyingly boundless. Think back to a time when you found yourself alone, perhaps on a long walk through an empty forest, or sitting by a window as rain traced patterns on the glass. In those moments, the external world seemed to fade, leaving only the rhythm of your own thoughts. Did you feel a sense of peace, as if the weight of expectation had lifted? Or did a quiet ache emerge, a longing for connection, for someone to, share the weight of that silence? This is the paradox of solitude. To be awake in such a state is to be fully present to oneself, yet that presence can underscore how distant we feel from the rest of the world. It's as if our consciousness, so vibrant and alive, becomes a solitary flame flickering in an endless night, beautiful but achingly alone. Take a moment to reflect on this. How does solitude shape your understanding of being awake? Does it bring you closer to some hidden truth? Or does it only deepen the mystery of who you are when no one else is there to see? Let's wander a little deeper into this thought. Throughout history, solitude has been both sought and feared. Hermits and philosophers retreated to desolate mountains and quiet caves, seeking clarity in isolation, believing that only by stepping away from the clamor of society could they truly awaken to the nature of existence. Yet even in their writings, there is often a thread of longing, a recognition that to be human is to crave connection, to need the warmth of another's voice to remind us we are not dreams adrift in an empty void. Consider the words of those who walked alone. Their insights were profound, but often tinged with a quiet melancholy, as if the price of their wakefulness was a solitude too heavy to bear for long. Now, imagine yourself as one of those ancient seekers, standing on a cliff's edge under a sky bruised with twilight. The wind carries no sound but its own whisper, and the world below is a distant memory. In that moment, your wakefulness feels absolute. Every thought, every breath, every heartbeat is yours alone. Yet, as the darkness deepens, a question arises, like mist from the earth. Is this clarity, this raw awareness, enough? Or does true wakefulness require a return to others, a bridge between the inner and outer worlds? Perhaps the paradox lies in this very tension, that to be awake is to oscillate between the solitude that sharpens our self and the connection that gives it meaning. There is a quiet beauty in this unresolved dance. Solitude, though isolating, offers a rare gift, the chance to hear the whisper of our own soul without the distortion of external voices. Yet it also reminds us of our limits, of how much of our reality is woven from the threads of others' presence. As we sit in these silent spaces, we are forced to confront the vastness within, a universe of thought and feeling that no one else can ever fully enter. And in that confrontation, we glimpse a deeper mystery. Perhaps being awake is not about choosing between solitude and connection, but about learning to inhabit the fragile space between them, where isolation and belonging blur into something ineffable. Take a moment to linger here. Feel the weight of your own presence, the quiet pulse of your thoughts in this solitary expanse. What do you hear in the silence? What does it teach you about the nature of your own wakefulness? As we rest in this thought, let the paradox of solitude settle around us like a soft fog. To be awake, yet alone, is to stand at the edge of a great unknown, both within ourselves and in the world beyond. It is a state that asks us to embrace the discomfort of our own company, to find strength in the quiet, even as we yearn for the echo of another's voice. And perhaps, in this delicate balance, we uncover a truth as old as consciousness itself, that to be truly awake is to feel the ache of solitude, and yet to carry on, knowing that even in our aloneness, we are part of something vast, something unseen, something that binds us all in the silent spaces between. As the day draws to a close, a quiet unease begins to stir within us, like a shadow lengthening across the earth. The golden hues of dusk fade into twilight, and with them comes a subtle, unspoken fear, a dread of returning to the unknown, to the realm of sleep, where we lose ourselves entirely. Why do we resist this inevitable descent, even as our bodies ache for rest and our minds grow heavy with the weight of the day? What is it about the approaching night that makes us cling so fiercely to the fragile thread of wakefulness, as if letting go means losing something vital, something we cannot name? Consider for a moment the paradox that unfolds as evening deepens. We stand at the threshold of rest, yet our hearts quicken with a primal reluctance. Sleep, after all, is a surrender, a relinquishment of control, a plunge into a void where the self dissolves into shadows and whispers. It is a small death, as the ancients once called it, a rehearsal for something far greater and far more unknowable. And perhaps that is where the fear takes root, in the realization that to sleep is to abandon the illusion of mastery we've clung to all day. We've spent hours asserting our will upon the world, choosing, acting, shaping our reality, only to face the humbling truth that none of it matters once we close our eyes. The world spins on without us, indifferent to our absence, and we are left to wonder what awaits on the other side of consciousness. This resistance is not merely a modern affliction. Across centuries, humans have wrestled with the same quiet terror. In ancient Greece, sleep was personified as Hypnos, a god who dwelt in a cave where no light could reach, a twin to Thanatos, the embodiment of death itself. The Greeks understood that to sleep was to flirt with oblivion, to walk a path perilously close to the eternal. Even in their myths, heroes and mortals alike trembled at the thought of being ensnared by Hypnos's gentle but unyielding grasp. For who could guarantee a return to the waking world? And so, as the stars emerge in our own sky, we inherit this ancient unease, a whisper from our ancestors that urges us to stay alert, to fight the pull of rest, even when every fiber of our being longs for it. But let us delve deeper into this tug-of-war between wakefulness and slumber. What is it that we truly fear losing as we stand on the edge of sleep? Is it the clarity of thought, the ability to reason and reflect that we believe defines us as awake beings? Or is it something more elusive, the sense of being, the fragile certainty that we exist at all? When we sleep, we become untethered from the narrative of self. Our memories, our desires, our carefully constructed identities, they all slip away into a formless expanse where time ceases to hold meaning. Perhaps this is why we resist, because to sleep is to confront the possibility that the self we cherish is but a fleeting construct, a story we tell ourselves in the light of day only to forget in the dark. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever lain awake at night, eyes tracing the ceiling, feeling the weight of exhaustion yet unable to let go? What kept you tethered to the waking world in those quiet hours? Was it the fear of dreams that might unravel truths you'd rather not face, or the dread of waking to a reality that feels less certain than the one you left behind? There is a profound vulnerability in sleep, a nakedness of the soul that strips away the armor we wear in our conscious hours, and yet isn't. There's also a strange beauty in this surrender, a quiet courage in allowing ourselves to fall, trusting that we will rise again. Let us linger on this thought as the night creeps closer. Imagine sleep not as an end, but as a journey, a crossing into a realm where the rules of wakefulness no longer apply. The fear we feel then might not be of loss, but of transformation. Every night, we stand at the precipice of the unknown, poised between control and release, between the self we know and the mystery we cannot grasp. And in this delicate balance, we find a mirror to our deepest existential questions. What does it mean to truly let go? What are we holding on to so tightly? And why does the act of surrender feel so much like falling? As the world grows still, and the first tendrils of drowsiness begin to weave through your mind, consider the paradox of this resistance. We fight sleep, yet it is inevitable. We cling to wakefulness, yet it cannot save us from the tide of rest that will, in time, claim us all. Perhaps, in this struggle, there lies a deeper truth about our nature, a yearning for control in a universe that offers none, a quiet defiance against the cycles that bind us. And yet, as the darkness beckons, there is also a whisper of peace, a promise that in letting go, we might find something greater, a reunion with the infinite, a return to the source from which all waking moments are born. Imagine for a moment that you are a boundless spirit, a force of pure thought and will, soaring through an endless cosmos of ideas and dreams. Yet, as you revel in this freedom, you feel a sudden tug, a weight that pulls you down, anchoring you to something heavy, something frail. You open your eyes, and there it is, the body you inhabit, the vessel of flesh and bone that houses your consciousness. It aches with a dull weariness, it hungers, it falters, even as your mind yearns to remain sharp and untethered. How strange it is to be awake, to feel the spark of awareness burning brightly within, only to be reminded that you are bound to a form so fragile, so demanding, that it often feels like a cage. This paradox of embodiment haunts us in the quiet moments of our day. We strive to be fully present, to engage with the world through the clarity of our thoughts, yet we cannot escape the insistent whispers of our physical selves. A twinge in the back after hours of sitting, a heaviness in the limbs as the day wears on, the slow fog of exhaustion that creeps into even the most determined mind. These are the subtle betrayals of the body. They remind us that no matter how lofty our aspirations, no matter how far our imagination stretches, we are tethered to a reality of sinew and skin, a reality that imposes its own limits on the boundless potential of consciousness. Consider the ancient Greeks, who wrestled with this very tension in their philosophy and myth. They spoke of the soul as a divine essence, a fragment of the eternal trapped within the mortal shell. In their stories, heroes like Achilles were defined not just by their strength, but by their vulnerability, the heel that could be pierced, the body that could bleed. They understood that to be awake, to be alive, was to exist in a state of constant negotiation between the immortal longings of the mind and the mortal constraints of the flesh. And so, we too must ask, are we truly awake when our bodies dictate so much of our experience, when every thought is colored by the needs and pains of the form we wear? Think of it through a simpler lens, an analogy as old as time. Imagine your body as a ship, and your consciousness as the captain steering it through the vast ocean of existence. The ship is sturdy enough to carry you, but it is weathered by storms, battered by waves, and in constant need of repair. You, the captain, dream of distant horizons, of uncharted waters where no one has sailed before. Yet, you are bound by the ship's creaking timbers, by the leaks that must be patched, by the winds that push you off course. To be awake is to command this vessel with all your skill and vision, knowing full well that it may fail you, that it will one day sink beneath the waves, no matter how fiercely you fight to keep it afloat. Take a moment to reflect on this. How often do we resent the ship for its flaws, rather than marvel at the journey it allows us to undertake? This tension between mind and body is not merely a frustration, it is a profound mystery. Why are we bound to such imperfection when our thoughts can soar to the edges of infinity? Is the body a prison, as some ancient thinkers believed? Or is it a necessary anchor, grounding us in a reality we might otherwise drift away from? Perhaps it is both, a cage that confines us, but also a canvas on which the story of our wakefulness is painted. Every ache, every limitation, forces us to confront the raw truth of our existence. That to be awake is not to transcend the physical, but to live within it, to find meaning in the struggle between what we are and what we long to be. As the day progresses, we carry this paradox with us, often without noticing. The body tires, yet the mind pushes forward, driven by a restless energy that refuses to yield. We sit at desks, we walk through streets, we lift burdens both literal and metaphorical, and all the while, the flesh reminds us of its presence, a heartbeat that quickens with anxiety, a stomach that growls with hunger, a brow that furrows with fatigue. These are the quiet signals of our embodiment, the insistent drumbeat beneath the melody of our thoughts. And yet, isn't there something strangely beautiful in this? That we, beings of stardust and imagination, are tethered to something so earthy, so transient, and in that very limitation, we discover the depth of our resilience. Let this thought linger for a while. Imagine yourself as a flame, flickering with the pure energy of awareness, yet encased in a lantern of glass and iron. The lantern is heavy, it is cracked in places, and it dims the light you wish to cast. But without it, would the flame survive, the winds of the world? Would it even know its own brightness without the boundaries that shape its glow? To be awake, truly awake, might mean embracing this duality, not as a betrayal, but as a dance between the eternal and the ephemeral, between the mind that dreams and the body that aches. Take a moment to reflect on this. How does your own lantern shape the light within you, and what beauty might you find in its imperfections? Have you ever noticed how, in the stillness of a quiet afternoon, your mind begins to drift, weaving threads of thought that seem to belong to another world? It's as if, even in the full light of day, a part of you slips away, crafting visions and stories that dance just beyond the edges of reality. This strange, almost secret act of daydreaming reveals a profound paradox. To be awake does not always mean to be anchored in the here and now. Instead, it often means wandering through landscapes conjured by an infinite mind, where the boundary between what is and what could be becomes as thin as a whisper. Consider for a moment the nature of these daydreams. They arrive unbidden, like a soft breeze through an open window, carrying with them fragments of longing, memory, or pure invention. Perhaps you find yourself walking through a city you've never visited, its streets alive with unfamiliar faces, yet somehow deeply known to you. Or maybe you're revisiting a moment from your past, but it's altered, sharper, softer, or tinged with a meaning it never held before. In these fleeting reveries, time seems to bend, and the rules of the waking world dissolve. You are both here, sitting in the mundane glow of the present, and elsewhere, lost in a creation so vivid it feels as real as the ground beneath your feet. How can this be? How can the mind, supposedly awake and alert, so effortlessly craft a reality that rivals the one we swear to inhabit? This paradox of daydreaming invites us to question the very nature of wakefulness. We often think of being awake as a state of clarity, a firm grip on the tangible world around us. Yet, in these moments of mental wandering, we reveal a deeper truth. Our consciousness is not a fixed point, but a vast, untamed expanse. It is a realm where imagination reigns, where the impossible becomes possible, and where the self can slip into countless other lives, other worlds, without ever leaving its chair. Is this a betrayal of wakefulness, or is it perhaps its truest expression? Are we most awake when we allow ourselves to dream, to explore the infinite corridors of thought, even as our eyes remain open to the daylight? Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time your mind wandered so far that you lost track of the world around you? What did you see in that inner landscape? Was it a place of solace, of longing, or of something stranger still? Let us delve deeper into this mystery by considering the ancient philosophers who pondered the nature of the mind. The Stoics, for instance, believed that our thoughts were within our control, that we could train ourselves to remain present, to anchor ourselves in the reality of the moment. Yet even they must have known the pull of daydreams, those quiet rebellions of the soul against the rigidity of discipline. In the East, the teachings of Zen speak of the mind as a restless monkey, swinging from branch to branch, never still, never fully tethered to the now. Daydreaming, in this light, is not a flaw, but a fundamental aspect of our being, a reminder that the mind is not a machine to be mastered, but a living, breathing entity, forever seeking, forever creating. And what of the worlds we build in these daydreams? Are they mere distractions, or do they hold a deeper significance? Some might argue that they are escapes, ways to flee the weight of reality when it becomes too heavy to bear. But perhaps there is more to it than that. Perhaps these imagined realms are mirrors, reflecting truths about ourselves that we cannot face in the stark light of the waking world. A daydream of flight might reveal a yearning for freedom. A vision of a lost loved one might uncover a grief we've buried too deep. In this way, daydreaming becomes not just a wandering, but a reckoning, a quiet dialogue between the conscious and the hidden, between the self we show to the world and the self we keep in shadow. There is something almost mystical in this act, as if the mind, in its infinite capacity, touches something beyond the material. Ancient mystics and poets often spoke of the soul's ability to transcend the body, to journey to realms unseen while the flesh remained bound to earth. Could daydreaming be a faint echo of this, a glimpse of a greater potential within us, where the barriers of time and space fall away, and we become, for a fleeting moment, something more than human? Or is it simply the mind playing tricks, spinning illusions to entertain itself in the quiet hours of the day? As we linger on this thought, let us consider one final aspect of this paradox: the way daydreaming blurs the line between waking and sleeping. In sleep, dreams come without our bidding, wild and untamed, often leaving us to wonder at their meaning upon waking. But in daydreams, we are both creator and observer, awake yet dreaming, conscious yet lost. It is as if the mind refuses to be confined by the binary of awake or asleep, insisting instead on a liminal space where both states coexist. What does this tell us about the nature of reality itself? If we can dream while awake, if we can inhabit other worlds while our feet remain planted in this one, then perhaps reality is not as solid as we believe. Perhaps it too is a dream, a shared illusion we've agreed to accept, even as our minds whisper of other possibilities. Take a moment to reflect on this. Close your eyes, if only for a breath, and let your mind wander wherever it wishes. Notice where it takes you, what it shows you. Does it feel like an escape, a revelation, or something else entirely? In the quiet of this contemplation, we are left with more questions than answers, and perhaps that is the true gift of daydreaming. It reminds us that wakefulness is not a destination, but a journey, a constant interplay between the real and the imagined, the known and the unknown. And as we sit here in the gentle hum of the present, we might wonder if the mind's wanderings are not distractions, but invitations. Invitations to explore the infinite within us, to embrace the mystery of being awake to a world that is, at its heart, as boundless as a dream. Imagine for a moment that everything you hold is certain. Every thought, every sensation, every fleeting glimpse of reality might be nothing more than a carefully crafted mirage. What if the very state of being awake, the foundation upon which you build your understanding of the world, is itself the greatest deception of all? This question, like a shadow that lingers at the edge of your vision, refuses to be dismissed. It creeps into the quiet corners of your mind, whispering doubts that unravel the fabric of what you believe to be true. Let us venture into this unsettling terrain together to explore the possibility that wakefulness, the state we cling to as proof of our existence, might be no more real than the dreams that vanish with the morning light. Consider the nature of your awareness as you move through the mundane rhythms of your day. You feel the ground beneath your feet, hear the hum of the world around you, and trust that these experiences anchor you in reality. But what if this trust is misplaced? What if the mind, in its infinite capacity for invention, has woven a tapestry so seamless that you cannot discern where the threads of truth end and the illusion begins? Philosophers have long grappled with this riddle. In the ancient traditions of skepticism, thinkers like Pyrrho questioned whether any knowledge could be certain, suggesting that our perceptions might forever obscure the true nature of things. Even in more modern times, the notion persists. Think of Descartes, who wrestled with the idea that an evil demon might deceive him into believing in a false reality. Could it be that wakefulness is merely a more convincing dream, one we've grown so accustomed to that we've forgotten to question its authenticity? Let's linger on this thought through a simple analogy. Picture yourself as a traveler in a vast, unfamiliar desert. The sun beats down, and the horizon shimmers with the promise of an oasis. You walk toward it, certain of its reality, only to find that it dissolves as you draw near, a mirage born of heat and longing. Now imagine that your waking life is like this desert journey. Each moment of clarity, Each sensation of certainty feels real in the instant you grasp it. Yet, as you reach for deeper understanding, it slips away, leaving you to wonder if you've been chasing shadows all along. What separates the mirage from the true oasis? What separates waking from dreaming, if both can feel so vivid, so undeniable, in the moment they unfold? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the weight of this uncertainty settle over you like a gentle mist. Recall a time when you awoke from a dream so lifelike that, for a fleeting second, you questioned which world held more truth, the one you had just left or the one you now inhabited. How did you convince yourself that this reality, the one you now occupy, was the true one? Was it the solidity of objects around you, the continuity of memory, or simply the habit of belief? A habit so ingrained that you've never thought to challenge it. This shadow of doubt, once cast, is not easily dispelled. It follows you through the day, tainting even the most ordinary experiences with a quiet unease. You might sip your coffee, feel the warmth of the cup against your palm, and still wonder, am I truly here? Or is this sensation a phantom conjured by a mind desperate for meaning? The ancient texts of Eastern philosophy, like the Upanishads, speak of the world as Maya, illusion, a veil that obscures the deeper reality beneath. If wakefulness itself is part of this illusion, then what are we to trust? How do we anchor ourselves when the very ground of our existence might be a fiction? Yet, there is a strange beauty in this uncertainty, a kind of liberation hidden within the doubt. If wakefulness is an illusion, then perhaps we are free to redefine it, to see it not as a fixed state, but as a fleeting dance of perception and belief. Maybe the act of questioning, rather than the act of knowing, is what brings us closest to truth. Like a child who marvels at the world with fresh eyes, we can embrace the mystery, allowing ourselves to wonder without the burden of needing answers. What if the line between waking and dreaming is not a wall to be breached, but a threshold to be crossed again and again, each crossing teaching us something new about the nature of our own minds? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let your thoughts drift to the edges of your awareness, to the space where certainty fades into possibility. Imagine that you stand at the border of two worlds, one of wakefulness, one of dreams, and that neither holds more truth than the other. What would it mean to live in this in-between, to accept that reality might forever elude your grasp, yet still find peace in the seeking? As we linger in this space of doubt, let us not rush to resolve it. Let the questions hang in the air like the faint echo of a forgotten melody. Perhaps the greatest illusion is not wakefulness itself, but our insistence on defining it, on pinning it down with words and certainties. Maybe, in the end, to be awake is not to know, but to wonder, to stand at the edge of understanding and gaze into the unknown with quiet curiosity. And so, we remain here, in this delicate balance, neither fully certain nor fully lost, but alive to the mystery that surrounds us, a mystery that whispers of truths just beyond our reach. Imagine for a moment that you're holding a single grain of sand between your fingers, watching as it slips away before you can truly feel its weight. This is the present, the fleeting, fragile now, that you inhabit with every breath. We are told that to be awake is to live in this moment, to grasp it fully with the clarity of consciousness. Yet, as soon as we reach for it, it's gone, dissolving into the past, leaving us clutching at shadows. How can we be truly awake when the very essence of now is so elusive, so impermanent? Let's linger here in this paradox and explore the fragility of the present, the way it both defines and escapes us. Consider the rhythm of your day, each step, each thought, each fleeting glance out a window. You move through the world believing you're anchored in the present, that this very second is yours to hold. But pause and notice how quickly it shifts. The sound of a distant bird, the warmth of a fleeting sunbeam, the thought that just crossed your mind, they are already memories by the time you acknowledge them. The now is a mirage, a shimmering illusion that promises solidity but vanishes under scrutiny. Are we awake to reality, Or are we merely chasing a ghost, always one step behind the moment we seek to inhabit? This impermanence isn't merely a quirk of time. It's a profound challenge to our understanding of awareness itself. Philosophers across centuries have wrestled with this riddle. In ancient Greece, Heraclitus spoke of a river that is never the same twice, for the waters are always flowing, always changing. You step into the stream of now, but by the time your foot touches the water, it's a different river altogether. To be awake, then, might mean to accept this constant flux, to surrender the illusion of holding on to anything at all. Yet, how unsettling this feels. To live in a reality that refuses to stay still long enough for us to know it. Think of a photograph, a captured instant meant to freeze time. Even as you gaze at it, the moment it represents is gone, and you're left with a mere echo, a relic of a now that no longer exists. Our minds do something similar, don't they? We try to pin down the present with thoughts, with words, with memories, as if by naming it, we can keep it. But the harder we grasp, the more it slips away, like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. Perhaps true wakefulness isn't about capturing the now, but about letting it pass through us, acknowledging its beauty and its brevity without the desperate need to possess it. Take a moment to reflect on this. How often do you try to cling to a moment only to feel it fade even faster? There's a quiet melancholy in this realization, but also a strange kind of peace. If the present is always vanishing, then perhaps our task isn't to master it, but to witness it. Imagine yourself as a traveler on a vast, endless shore, watching waves roll in and recede. Each wave is a moment, rising and falling in its own time, and you stand there, not trying to stop the tide, but simply observing its rhythm. To be awake might mean to become this observer, to dwell in the space between grasping and letting go, to find a stillness amid the ceaseless motion of now. Yet, even this perspective carries its own mystery. If the present is so fleeting, can we ever truly know it? Are we doomed to live slightly outside of it, always reflecting on what was or anticipating what will be? The Buddhist teachings speak of mindfulness, of rooting oneself in the breath, in the immediate sensation of being. But even as you focus on your inhale, that breath is already exhaled, already past. The now seems to mock our efforts at awareness, daring us to catch it before it transforms into something else. And so, we are left with a question that hums softly in the background of our days. Is true wakefulness possible in a world where everything, even this very moment, is impermanent? Let's sit with this uncertainty for a while. Picture yourself in a quiet room at dusk, the light fading through a window, casting long shadows across the floor. You're here, in this now, but already the light shifts, the shadows grow, and the moment you thought you held is slipping into twilight. There's no need to answer the question of awareness just yet. Simply feel the weight of it, the way it tugs at the edges of your thoughts. To be awake, perhaps, is not to solve the riddle of the present, but to live within its mystery, to let its fragility remind us of how precious, how fleeting every breath truly is. Take a moment to reflect on this. Where are you right now, and how long will this now linger before it too becomes a memory? As the day draws to a close and the world outside grows still, a quiet heaviness settles over the mind, a weight that pulls us not just into rest, but into the unseen horizon of tomorrow. Have you ever noticed how, in these final waking hours, your thoughts begin to drift beyond the present, reaching for a future that hasn't yet arrived? It's as if the act of being awake, so rooted in the now, becomes a bridge to something intangible, something uncertain, a landscape of possibilities that both beckons and unnerves us. Consider this paradox. To be awake is to live in the moment, yet as night approaches, we find ourselves tethered to what lies ahead. Tomorrow looms like a shadow cast by a light we cannot see, shaping our actions, our worries, even our dreams before they've had the chance to form. We plan, we anticipate, we dread or hope, all while the present slips quietly through our fingers. Why does the future hold such power over us, even as we stand firmly in the day that still remains? Is it because we fear the unknown, or because we long for it, craving a redemption, a resolution, a chance to rewrite what today left unfinished? Think of the ancient mariners, gazing at the horizon as dusk fell over the endless sea. They sailed under fading light, guided by stars yet to fully emerge, their minds already charting a course for a shore they could not see. Their wakefulness was not just in the creak of the ship or the salt on their skin, but in the relentless pull of what awaited beyond the curve of the earth. Were they truly present, or were they already living in the promise or peril of tomorrow? Like them, we too are voyagers, caught between the solid ground of now and the misty promise of what's to come. Our consciousness, so sharp and vivid in the daylight, begins to blur at its edges, as if admitting that it cannot fully belong to one time or another. Take a moment to reflect on this. How often do your thoughts of tomorrow steal the peace of tonight? Perhaps it's a task left undone, a conversation yet to unfold, or a fear of what might or might not happen. These invisible chains bind us, pulling us forward even as we long to rest. And yet, isn't there something strangely beautiful in this tension? To be awake is to be alive to possibility, to carry the weight of hope alongside the burden of uncertainty. We are, in a sense, architects of a future we cannot touch, sketching blueprints in the quiet of our minds while the world around us dims. But let us linger on this a little longer. What if this obsession with tomorrow is not a strength, but a trap? What if in our endless anticipation, we lose the only thing we truly possess, this fleeting, fragile moment? The future, after all, is a phantom, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the chaos of time. It may arrive as we imagine it, or it may shatter every expectation, leaving us to wonder why we surrendered so much of our wakefulness to something so uncertain. The Greeks spoke of kairos, the god of opportune time, a fleeting moment of potential that demands our full presence. Yet how often do we miss kairos, distracted by the shadow of what hasn't yet been? And so, as night deepens and the boundary between today and tomorrow grows thin, we find ourselves suspended in a curious dance. We are awake, yet already half dreaming of what's next. We are here, yet already there. Perhaps this is the true nature of consciousness, not a fixed state, but a restless journey, always reaching for a horizon that recedes as we approach. Does this endless anticipation enrich our lives, or does it rob us of the stillness we so desperately need? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the quiet of the evening hold you and ask yourself, can I release tomorrow, just for now, and truly inhabit the fading light of today? In this delicate balance, there is a profound mystery. To be awake is to be caught in a cycle of hope and fear, of longing and doubt, all woven into the fabric of a future we cannot grasp. Yet perhaps it is in this very uncertainty that we find our humanity. We are not gods who can see beyond time, nor are we beasts content to live only in the instinct of the moment. We are something in between, creatures of imagination, forever awake to what might be, even as we stand on the precipice of night. And as the darkness gathers, we carry this burden lightly, knowing that tomorrow, whether it brings triumph or trial, will wait for us just beyond the veil of sleep. As the day draws to its inevitable close, there's a quiet tension that settles over us, a subtle dance between the world we've inhabited and the one that awaits beyond the veil of sleep. Picture yourself now, in the dim glow of evening, moving through the familiar motions of winding down, perhaps turning down the sheets, dimming the lights, or simply sitting in stillness as the noise of the day fades into a distant hum. These are the rituals of rest, small acts that signal the body's readiness to let go. Yet, even as you prepare to abandon wakefulness, doesn't a part of you cling to it, as if holding onto a fragile thread of certainty in a sea of unknowns? This moment, this delicate transition, is a paradox in itself. we stand at the threshold of slumber. Our minds still buzzing with the echoes of the day, reluctant to release their grip on the reality we've so carefully constructed. Why do we resist, even as exhaustion tugs at our bones? Is it the fear of losing ourselves, of slipping into a void where time and identity dissolve? Or is it something deeper, a quiet suspicion that in sleep we might confront truths we've avoided in the harsh light of day? Consider how these rituals, brushing your teeth, setting an alarm, whispering a final thought into the darkness, become almost sacred, a way to anchor ourselves before we drift into the uncharted waters of the night. Think back to ancient times, when our ancestors performed their own rites before sleep, perhaps whispering prayers or arranging their resting places under the vast, indifferent sky. They too must have felt this same hesitation, this tug between the known and the unknown. In their world, sleep was not just rest, but a journey, a passage into realms where gods and spirits roamed, where the soul might wander too far and forget its way back. Even now, don't we carry a trace of that primal unease, a whisper of doubt as we close our eyes? We prepare to let go, yet a part of us stands guard, watching over the self that dares to surrender. Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of your own rituals, the small habits that bridge your waking life to the mystery of sleep. What do they reveal about your relationship with rest? Are they a comfort, a way to ease the mind into stillness? Or are they a quiet protest, a way to delay the inevitable fall? And so, we linger in this in-between, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, caught in a current that pulls us toward oblivion while our thoughts still cling to the shore. It's as if the mind is a weary traveler, packing its bags for a journey. It cannot predict, unsure if it will return unchanged. What do we fear losing in this transition? Is it the clarity of thought, the illusion of control, or simply the comforting weight of being? Perhaps it's the unspoken question that haunts us most. When we wake again, will we be the same person who closed their eyes, or will something essential have shifted in the dark? Imagine, for a moment, that sleep is not an end, but a doorway, a passage to a realm where the rules of wakefulness no longer apply. As you perform these quiet acts of preparation, you're not just readying yourself for rest, you're standing before that threshold, peering into the unknown. And yet, isn't there a strange beauty in this act of surrender, in the courage it takes to let go, even as doubt whispers in your ear? We court slumber with intention, yet we cannot control what awaits us there. This is the heart of the paradox. To be awake is to resist, to question, to hold on, yet to rest. We must embrace the very uncertainty we fear. So, as the world around you grows quieter, as the familiar shapes of your surroundings blur into shadow, let yourself linger in this moment of transition. Feel the tension between holding on and letting go, between the safety of now and the mystery of what lies beyond. There's no need to rush, no need to resolve the paradox tonight. Simply be here, in this fragile space, where wakefulness and slumber brush against each other like old friends parting ways at dusk. What do you carry with you as you step toward the edge? What do you hope to find when you return? These questions, like the rituals themselves, are a quiet companion, guiding you gently into the dark. Imagine for a moment that you're standing on the edge of a vast, quiet lake at twilight. The water so still, it mirrors the fading sky above. You can't quite tell where the horizon ends and the reflection begins. This is the strange, liminal space where your mind hovers now, on the brink of sleep, where awareness begins to fray like a thread pulled too thin, and peculiar, half-formed thoughts drift in from the shadows like whispers on the wind. It's a realm neither fully here nor fully gone. A twilight of consciousness where the boundaries between waking and dreaming dissolve into something indefinable. In this fragile state, you might feel the weight of your body sinking into the softness beneath you, yet your mind lingers, teetering on the precipice of two worlds. It's as if you're caught in a delicate dance, one foot still planted in the realm of thought and intention, the other stepping hesitantly into the vast, uncharted sea of slumber. What is this place? This in-between? Is it a bridge or a void? A sanctuary or a trap? The paradox of this liminal state is that it feels both utterly familiar and deeply alien, a threshold we cross every night, yet can never fully map or understand. Think of the ancient Greeks who spoke of Hypnos, the god of sleep, and his twin brother Thanatos, the embodiment of death. They were said to dwell in a shadowy underworld, their presence a reminder that sleep and oblivion are close kin. In this half-awake, half-asleep haze, we brush against that ancient truth. Our thoughts grow strange, disjointed, as if pulled from some deeper well of the psyche. A fleeting image of a forgotten face might surface, or a nonsensical phrase might echo in the mind, unmoored from logic or context. Are these the first tendrils of dream reaching out to claim us? Or are they fragments of a reality we've forgotten? In the light of day, take a moment to reflect on this. What do you see or hear in that twilight space, just as your grip on wakefulness begins to loosen? This liminal state is a quiet rebellion against the certainty we cling to when fully awake. In the daylight hours, we build walls of reason and structure, convinced we know where we stand. But here, on the edge of consciousness, those walls crumble. Time loses its rhythm. A second can stretch into eternity, or hours can slip by unnoticed. The self you thought you knew begins to blur at the edges, as if you're watching your own reflection ripple in that still twilight lake. Who are you in this moment? Are you the one who thinks, plans, and remembers? Or are you something else? Something softer, more primal, more connected to the vast unknown that sleep promises? There's a quiet unease in this in-between, isn't there? A sense that you're neither fully in control nor fully surrendered. It's as if you're a traveler standing at the border of two lands, holding a passport to neither. You can still feel the echoes of the day, perhaps a lingering worry, a half-finished thought, or the warmth of a conversation, but they're growing fainter, like a signal fading into static. And yet, the dream world hasn't fully claimed you either. You hover, suspended, in a space where reality and illusion weave together so seamlessly that you can't tell which is which. Is this the true nature of existence, this blurring of lines? Is life itself a kind of liminal state, caught between the certainty of birth and the mystery of what lies beyond? Consider the way a fog rolls over a field at dusk, obscuring the familiar, until even the shapes you thought you knew become strange and otherworldly. That's what this edge of consciousness feels like, a fog of the mind, where the landmarks of thought and memory are shrouded, and you're left to navigate by instinct, alone. There's a kind of beauty in this uncertainty, a reminder that not everything needs to be grasped or defined. Perhaps this twilight realm is a gift, a fleeting chance to let go of the need to know, to simply be. Half here, half elsewhere, a whisper of yourself dissolving into the night. As you linger in this space, notice how the body begins to betray its readiness for rest. The breath slows, the limbs grow heavy, and yet the mind clings to its flickering light, reluctant to fully cross over. It's a paradox, this tug of war between the physical and the ethereal. Why do we resist, even now, when the pull of sleep is so gentle, so inviting? Is it fear of losing ourselves? Or is it the quiet thrill of standing on this edge, where anything feels possible? Where the dream might be more real than the day we've left behind? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of your own awareness as it softens, as it begins to slip away. What do you sense in this liminal space? Is it peace, or is it unease? Is it a goodbye to the waking world, or a quiet hello to something deeper, something waiting just beyond the veil? As you hover here on the brink of two worlds, let yourself wonder, where does wakefulness end? And where does the dream truly begin? Imagine for a moment that you stand at the edge of a vast, quiet ocean. The waves lap gently at the shore, pulling back into the depths with a rhythm as old as time itself. You know that to step forward means to let go, to allow the tide to carry you into a realm beyond your control. This is the moment of surrender, the quiet act of releasing yourself to sleep, where the weight of being awake slips from your shoulders like a heavy cloak, yet something within you lingers, watching. Aware of the fall, there is a profound paradox in this act of surrender. To sleep is to abandon the very awareness that defines us, to relinquish the sharp edges of thought and the ceaseless hum of existence. Yet, even as we close our eyes, a faint thread of consciousness remains, a silent sentinel that refuses to fully dissolve into the dark. It is as though a part of us stands guard, whispering that this descent is not an end, but a passage. Have you ever noticed this? That fleeting moment when your body softens, your breath slows, and yet your mind hovers, almost reluctant to cross the threshold. It is a strange dance, this interplay between letting go and holding on, as if we are both the traveler and the witness to our own departure. Consider the ancient Greeks, who saw sleep not merely as rest, but as a journey into the realm of Hypnos, the god of slumber, and his twin brother Thanatos, the embodiment of death. They understood that to sleep was to touch something eternal, a state so akin to death that it carried a quiet reverence, a subtle danger. Each night, they believed, we rehearse our final surrender, stepping into a void where the self dissolves, only to return with the dawn. What does this tell us about our own nightly descent? Are we too rehearsing something greater, something inevitable, each time we yield to the pull of sleep? Or is this surrender merely a mirror, reflecting the cycles that govern all of life? Birth and decay, light and shadow, waking and dreaming. Think of sleep as a river that flows through the landscape of your being. When you are awake, you stand on its banks, observing its currents, mapping its course with the tools of thought and will. But to surrender is to step into the water, to allow yourself to be carried by a force you cannot command. There is a truth hidden in this act, a whisper of something deeper about the nature of existence itself. Every surrender, every release, is a reminder that we are not merely beings of control and certainty. We are also creatures of rhythm, bound to cycles that stretch beyond our understanding. To sleep is to acknowledge this, to accept that we are part of a greater tide, one that ebbs and flows with or without our consent. Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you truly let go, not just in sleep, but in life? When did you last allow yourself to be carried, to trust in the current rather than fight against it? There is a quiet power in surrender, a strength that lies not in resistance, but in release. And yet, how often do we cling to wakefulness, to the illusion of mastery, as though staying alert could shield us from the inevitable? In this final act of the day, as the world grows still and the boundaries of self begin to blur, we touch a timeless truth. Surrendering to sleep is not a loss, but a return. It is the closing of one circle and the promise of another, a reminder that every end carries within it the seed of a beginning. As you drift into that silent expanse, there is no need to fear the fall, for in letting go, you are not disappearing. You are simply becoming part of the rhythm, the eternal dance between presence and absence, between the light of awareness and the quiet mystery of the unknown. As the veil of night wraps tighter around us and the quiet hum of the world fades into a whisper, there is a subtle promise hidden in the darkness, a whisper of renewal, a faint glow of tomorrow. Yet, as we surrender to sleep, are we not also surrendering to the very questions that have haunted us through the day? What awaits us when the light returns, when the cycle of consciousness spins once more into motion? Is it a new beginning, or merely the echo of the same eternal riddle we've been chasing since the first moment our eyes fluttered open? Consider this for a moment. Each time we close our eyes, we step into an abyss, a void where time and self seem to dissolve. And yet, somewhere in that infinite dark, a seed of awareness remains, waiting to bloom again with the dawn. It's as if life itself is a wheel, turning endlessly through cycles of light and shadow, waking and dreaming, knowing and forgetting. We fall into sleep, carried away by its gentle current, only to be washed ashore once more on the sands of a new day. But what have we truly left behind in that journey through the night? Have we escaped the questions that bind us, or do they simply lie in wait, dressed in the fresh guise of morning? Think of the ancient Greeks, who spoke of the river Lethe, a mythical stream in the underworld whose waters granted oblivion to the souls who drank from it. To forget was to be reborn, they believed, cleansed of the burdens of past lives. Yet, in our own cycles of sleep and waking, there is no such forgetting. Each morning, we rise carrying the weight of yesterday's thoughts, the same unresolved musings, the same quiet doubts about who we are and why we are here. Are we truly awakening to something new, or are we trapped in a mirror maze, where every reflection of consciousness looks startlingly like the last? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of that endless loop, the way it both comforts and unsettles, like the steady rhythm of waves against a shore you cannot see. Imagine for a heartbeat that life is a tapestry woven not of moments, but of repetitions, a pattern so intricate that we only notice its sameness when we step back far enough to see the whole. Each day, we trace the same threads, the flicker of awareness as we wake, the grasping for meaning as we move through hours, the quiet dread as night approaches, and the inevitable surrender to sleep. And yet, within this repetition, there is a strange kind of beauty, a symmetry that speaks to something deeper. Could it be that the paradox of waking and sleeping is not a trap but a dance, a rhythm as old as existence itself? Where to know is to forget, and to forget is to once again awaken. Let this thought linger as the world grows still around you. Picture yourself standing at the edge of tomorrow, gazing into the faint light of a dawn not yet born. You cannot see what lies ahead, but you feel it. The pull of the same questions, the same mysteries that have always been there, waiting for you to ask them anew. Is this cycle a prison, or is it the very essence of what it means to be alive, to wake, to wonder, to sleep, and to wake again, each time a little more aware of how little we truly know? There is a quiet magic in this unknowing, a mystery that does not demand an answer, but simply invites you to keep turning the wheel. As you rest now, let your mind drift along this endless current, carried by the thought that every end is but a pause, every sleep a preparation for the light to come. What will you carry with you into that next awakening? What forgotten fragment of yourself might rise to meet the sun? Let these questions dissolve into the stillness, for they will be there tomorrow, as they always are, woven into the very fabric of the dance between knowing and oblivion. Rest in that rhythm now, and let the promise of dawn hold you gently until the cycle is reborn.